Welcome back to Global News Morning. A pleasure to have you join us. This is the time of week where we check in with our good friend Matt Lee and discuss things related to real estate, different issues. We see Matt. We're doing something a little different today, though. Good morning, Matt.
Yeah.
We are introducing Mitch. Explain who Mitch is, Matt.
Yeah, Mitch Thibodeau works at Mortgage Professional, so he's a mortgage broker. And I thought, we've been talking about these things where I kind of touch on the financing, but I always say, go to your mortgage broker, go to your bank and talk about these things a little further. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we break it down and go through the steps of the first introduction with somebody, with myself, and then working through to the point of having a deal that's solid. So I thought, you know what, let's bring Mitch in and kind of run through the steps with that side of the professional end of it.
All right, well, we'll get to know Mitch a little bit better right now. Very few people can walk into a real estate deal and say, yep, I'm going to buy a house, here's cash. This is where Mitch comes in. It's about financing. Mitch, you're dealing with some nervous people right at the beginning, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's always it's a big step. It's a big purchase. So we just like to really educate the clients and make sure they have a full understanding of the process. So what we'll do is we'll explain the process to them in detail, and then we'll sit down and we'll do an application and try to get them pre-approved. So really the main goal there is kind of getting all their details together, finding out more about them and their income and their jobs and credit, and then looking at what's going to be comfortable for them in terms of payments, mortgage amount, that sort of thing.
And is there a fee for your services, Mitch?
That's a great question. No, there's no fee. As brokers, we get paid a commission by the bank or lender that we end up placing the mortgage with. Okay, so you won't pay any more than you would or any less than you would going to a bank or a credit union or elsewhere. Like I said, we're paid a commission from the bank or lender. So the client does not pay any fee to the broker.
And so, Matt, someone's looking at some property, a house, they come to you. The next step is for you to put them in touch with Mitch. Mitch explains to them everything that they need to know. Mitch eventually gets back to them, and then they come back to you, Matt?
That's correct. So basically the introduction sometimes starts with Mitch, sometimes starts with myself, and basically, Mitch just went through that situation where they kind of go through the individual process of saying, okay, how much do you have on credit line, or do you, what do you qualify for? What are your jobs? And basically that's the first step. I direct them to a mortgage broker or the bank to talk about that. The next step is once they've realized where they feel comfortable, is they come back to me and we go and look at houses and we'll say, okay, this is where we feel comfortable because we know what the payments are going to be on X amount of dollars. So we go to that next step, we look at the houses, and then we get a house. In this day and age, we don't have as many conditional offers, but we do go through the process of having a conditional offer, and we make that offer maybe conditioned upon financing. So once that happens, I would then send the offer and the listing off to the broker or the bank, and Mitch would take over and run through that process with the client once we've got that condition in place.
And Mitch, is the consultation done in person? Can you do it over this format, Skype or Zoom?
It used to always be done in person, but now it's obviously a little bit different. Since March 2020, it's mostly done over the phone and just like this on Zoom. It seems like most people just are happy to do it over the phone. They're happy to do it from home. So our business has changed a lot in the last year and a half, but I think it's ultimately more convenient for the client than it's ever been. So that's great.
Mitch, let's talk about a timeline. Is there such a thing as if someone wants a 30-year mortgage?
For sure. Yeah, we do those quite often. The catch with the 30-year mortgage is that you have to have 20% down. So where we'd love to have the 30-year mortgage today is with those first-time buyers that are coming in with 5% down and having a hard time qualifying. Unfortunately, with less than 20% down, you're limited to the 25-year mortgage. But as soon as you get that 20% down, you've got more equity there. Then they're more willing to go up to the 30-year amortization, so you can stretch it out a little longer and get those payments down.
Okay, I actually have a question for Mitch too. Can
Sure.
you tell us what the interest rate, what's the average interest rate sitting at on a 5-year fixed right now?
Yeah, that's the most popular question we get, if you can believe that. Right now it's interesting. We've actually just had a small increase over the past week. We were seeing, rates below 2% for quite a while. Now we're sitting just kind of, if we had to give a range on a 5-year fixed rate, is probably anywhere from about 2.14 to about 2.34. And that rate will just depend on, whether the mortgage is insured or not, and how long the amortization is, and a few variables like that.
Hey, Matt, one thing, I'll ask the questions around here.
Okay. Totally.
How often have you dealt with a client where they say, you know what, I'm looking at a property, it costs X amount of dollars, do I qualify for a mortgage? You talk with them, you get back to them, and then you come back and say, you're actually qualified for even more than X amount of dollars, which is good news for the client.
Yeah, you know what, it actually happens quite often. I mean, people are very often surprised at how much they'll qualify for, and they'll end up qualifying for a lot more than they're actually comfortable with. And that's why it's really important with each client to really look at, the payments, but also their particular budget, because everyone's different, right? Some people like to spend more, going out to restaurants and movies, that sort of thing, and some people don't. Some people have daycare costs, different things like that. So everyone's situation is different. So we really got to try to nail down, well, what is going to be that payment that's most comfortable for them. So we have some people, qualifying for way more than what they actually want to pay. And then we have the other end of the spectrum too, where you got, young first-time buyers who are just barely qualifying or not qualifying for enough. So we really see a bit of both of that, right?
How long does the process take to qualify before they can then go to Matt and say, let's do it?
Yeah, so the pre-approval process, we'll do that meeting where we talk about their finances, talk about jobs and credit, and then we'll submit the application for a pre-approval. We can usually get that back within 1 to 2 business days. And at that point, they are ready to go. They can go to Matt and say, okay, here's my maximum purchase price. Here's what we're comfortable, the range that we're comfortable in. And then it makes Matt's job a lot easier to just go out and find a house in that range for them.
And so, Matt, it moves pretty quick, the whole process.
Yeah, it does. Once that ball starts rolling, we kind of go back and forth. And that's why you have to have somebody that, has the experience, knows which, people to bring in. I mean, we bring in lawyers for certain types of properties because of legal descriptions. Downtown Kingston is really written, in the early 1900s. So we have to bring in people for certain things. We bring in Mitch, that type of, to make sure that side of the deal is covered as well. So while this system is moving forward, we want to make sure that, Mitch gets everything that he needs, the lawyer gets everything they need, the insurance person gets everything they need, and we keep that momentum going.
And at the end of the day, when all is said and done, everyone is happy. The client is happy, and if the client's happy, then you guys are happy.
Yeah, that's the plan for sure. Make sure that they're happy and that they're excited going to their next step. So, we want to make sure it's easy. The job is to make it smooth and to make sure that they know exactly what they're going forward with. So,
Mitch Thibodeau, we thank you so much. Mitch is a mortgage broker and also our good friend Matt Lee. We thank you so much. Take care, guys. Be well. Be safe.
Thanks, Bill. Bye now.
Real Estate Tips, brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.